In wrapping up the 2022 movies that I have not gotten to review yet on the channel, we've got 3 from Apple TV Plus, including one with a major Oscar nomination. Let's talk about Causeway, The Sky is Everywhere, and Raymond Ray. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my reviews for 3 Apple TV Plus original films from 2022. And these are the only 3 from Apple TV Plus. I have not gotten to review most, actually all of the others, I should say, got their own, either standalone reviews or in a package, like I did some animated ones, so Luck was in there, but the Will Smith movie Emancipation came out. And look, Apple TV Plus is not Netflix or Hulu. They don't release a movie every week or two, so they only have, a handful from each year. And, these are the only 3 I had not covered. And interestingly enough, I did not know that there would be a major acting nomination from the movie Causeway. Brian Tyree Henry got Best Supporting Actor nominated the other day when those nominations came out. I watched this movie last week just because I knew I was going to do an Apple Plus wrap-up, and sure enough, he got Oscar nominated. So we're going to start with Causeway and then move into the other 2, The Sky is Everywhere and Raymond Ray. But before we launch into these movies, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thanks for finding this video. I am doing my 2022 wrap-up videos, so we're going to do a lot of sort of rapid fire, like, 5, 6 movies at a time here. And most of them are going to be sort of themed by month, but I figured since there were only 3 Apple Plus movies I had not gotten to, we could sort of do that sort of together. So let's start with Causeway because, like I mentioned, it is Oscar nominated for Brian Tyree Henry, who is in the supporting actor category. Jennifer Lawrence is the star of this film, and I guess she maybe was in contention for a Best Actress nomination. Don't really think that was probably going to happen, but you never know. The Oscars really love to sort of go back to people that have previously won, and she's been nominated many, many times. She's only won, I guess, the once, right, for Silver Linings, but she was nominated for American Hustle and Joy and back in the day, Winter's Bone. Anyway, this movie is about these 2 characters who have new changes in their lives that have sort of upended everything going on with them. Jennifer Lawrence plays Lindsay, who is coming back from a brain injury during an IED explosion during a tour in Afghanistan, and she has to move back home with her mom to be taken care of until she is ready to redeploy. But she meets James, who his issue is that his nephew was killed in a car accident, and so he's sort of dealing with that. So they're both dealing with grief and loss and some sort of thing with that, and find each other sort of in those moments. Really great performances from both. I was surprised to see Brian Tyree Henry's name in the supporting actor category, but I'm happy about it. I think he did a great job in this movie. And, we've seen, you may not know him by name, but we've seen him pop up in so many things. In fact, recently he was in Bullet Train with Brad Pitt this summer. That was, kind of a fun popcorn movie. But he also was in The Eternals, and he was in the Godzilla versus Kong movie and the latest Child's Play recreation. So he's been in a lot of movies that you maybe have seen. And he gives a great performance here. Jennifer Lawrence also gives a great performance, and this is one of her first films back after that terrible movie Mother from her then boyfriend Darren Aronofsky. I don't believe they're together anymore. And then her last movie was Don't Look Up, which it got Oscar nominated as well, but it it was very polarizing. I, for one, did not care for it. I don't think anyone that I know in person really cared for it. It did okay with the critics. I think it's at like a 60% or something on Rotten Tomatoes, but it got somehow a Best Picture nomination. So some people liked it. I thought she was okay in it. But, this movie and this performance of Jennifer Lawrence takes us back to some of those early amazing performances. Silver Linings Playbook is a great example of that. But, even some of the Hunger Games movies, yeah, you could say they were more blockbuster oriented, or not maybe as character driven as some of her other work. But to be honest, her portrayal of Katniss Everdeen is, I think, one of the great performances of the last 15, 20 years in cinema, and certainly in terms of big action movies, blockbusters, those sorts of things. She killed it, in that role. And here we see again just why she is such a talented performer. And the two of them have great chemistry. And a few other people in the movie, I think, give really good performances as well. Her mother, played by Linda Emond, she did a great job too. It's funny. All three of these movies, I don't know why these specific ones were the three I did not watch from 2022 until last week, but they all deal with grief in some sort of way. And in all three cases, death with one of the characters at least is dealing with death. But of course, Jennifer Lawrence's character is more dealing here with her own physical and mental health, really, with the brain injury. But there's death throughout these three movies, and they all are sort of dealt with in different ways. I think, well, and they're all sort of character studies too, to a degree. But my biggest issue here with this movie is we don't actually get enough of the character stuff. It's a bit of a slow pace for a little while. Now, the opening scenes, where Lindsay is figuring out how to redo things that she's done her whole life, that part of her brain got messed up in the explosion, and so she's got to relearn even the most basic of things, that she's been doing her whole life. And so that was interesting, but then the next like 20 minutes, it gets really slow, and you're kind of like, okay, where's this going? Where is this building to? And then once we see the James Tyree Henry character, or what's his name? Brian Tyree Henry. The character is named James. Once we see him and they connect, then it gets, really interesting, and it's a really good sort of, conversational movie, and everything about it, kind of works to a degree. But I will say, I'm not sure that we ever got into the characters deep enough, which is a shame given the talent, that these two are bringing to the table. So that is certainly one negative I have about the movie. It actually reminded me a little bit, specifically, Jennifer Lawrence's character, of this movie called The Lucky Ones with Rachel McAdams and Tim Robbins from probably 15 years ago now. But they were injured, or at least she was. I forget what his deal was, but she was injured in I don't know if it was Afghanistan, Iraq, or whatever. But she, is trying to reassimilate into society after, a horrible injury. And it reminded me a little bit of that movie. I think that actually was probably a better done film overall, because I think they gave us more characters to study. More of the characters study, I should say, not more characters overall, but at any event, this is the best of the three. I really like that Henry got nominated. I don't know if he'll win. For me, I'm really rooting for Brendan Gleeson for the Banshees of Inisherin, but I think it's probably going to go to Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that's probably a foregone conclusion of all the acting awards. I think that probably is the biggest home run of them all. But maybe Cate Blanchett, too, for Tar, for actress. But in any event, I leave Causeway with a B. So up next, we are going to talk about, this is just go in order of release, The Sky is Everywhere. And that is the only person really you might know for sure here is Jason Segel. He has a more minor role, but Grace Kaufman is the star here. She was on the TNT show The Last Ship. I never watched that, but that was on, for many, many years. So you may know her from that. She was also in the Matt LeBlanc sitcom Man with the Plan. But she plays this 17-year-old girl, Lenny Walker, who is a musical prodigy. And, of course, Apple TV Plus, no stranger to the musical prodigy movie. Coda won Best Picture for them. But anyway, she has her own bout of grief because her older sister, Bailey, has died suddenly. And so she's dealing with that alongside Jason Segel, who plays sort of a a father figure to her, and then Cherry Jones, who plays her grandmother. But love is in the air as well because this new guy at school, Joe Fontaine, played by Jacques Coleman, he has entered Lenny's life, and so she is, drawn to him. But they have a very complicated relationship. He's got, some stuff going on himself. But the quote unquote hook of this movie is that she's got this like rich, fantasy life. And so we see some of the movie play out through sort of montages and visual elements that are going through her mind. Boy, it's unfortunate because there's a few scenes specifically with her and the grandmother, the Cherry Jones character, maybe even one with the Jason Segel character, that really, really hit hard and give a great emotional heft. But the rest of the movie just doesn't measure up. I think there's too many sort of ideas swirling around at once. Is this a rom-com? Is this a dramatic character study about this poor girl who lost her sister and the family members, remaining? Is it a silly sort of sci-fi, not sci-fi, but like this whole fantasy element in her mind? It never plays out well for me in this movie, and it's certainly been done well before in other things. So it's not that I don't like the plot device. I didn't think it was written in very well here. It's also a little jarring because it's not very constant. So we see it, more sporadically. So we don't even get used to it as the audience. At least I didn't. Her performance is fine. I can't really say much bad about that necessarily, but I think this is a matter of sort of the script letting her down a bit, and just the nature of all of the elements not really meshing that well. But there is an incredible scene with her and the grandmother that was definitely tugging at my heartstrings. I didn't cry about it, but I definitely thought it was the best scene of the movie. I got a bit emotional when they're sort of screaming at each other, and I don't want to give spoilers, but it's just a really, really grounded scene, the most grounded of the whole movie. And yeah, then the musical prodigy thing comes in, and you're like, okay, is this going to be like Coda again? Because she's trying to get into this prestigious school. They don't focus too much on that, like Coda did, but I just sort of thought, wow, Apple TV Plus really going to sort of that musical prodigy well for their movie. So this was definitely a mixed bag. My least favorite of the three. I leave The Sky Is Everywhere with a C. So finally, we have Raymond and Ray, and this stars two heavyweights, really, Ewan McGregor and Ethan Hawke. And yes, they both are named, I guess Raymond is the full name, but Ewan McGregor goes by Raymond, Ethan Hawke goes by Ray, and these are brothers that have been estranged, and the father has passed away. So here we go, grief again, someone dying, and these characters have to figure out how to deal with this. But he was an abusive man. Each boy had their own sort of issues with him. And they're half brothers anyway, so they also have sort of other, familial issues with that. But one of his last requests, the father, was to have these two sons manually, without machines, dig his grave. And so that is a major plot point, and through that, it's a bit of a road trip movie because they have to go to this place, but it's a character piece for the two of them. And talk about not connecting, much like the last movie, The Sky Is Everywhere. Two great performances here by two really heavyweights. I mean, Ewan McGregor, I used to be able to sort of take or leave him, but I've really come around on him the last few years. And Ethan Hawke, I mean, I loved him at first when he did Reality Bites and some other things in the early days, and then I sort of fell off the train there. But the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, I guess maybe ever since like Sinister and some of the movies he was doing a more of the kind of indie route, the last 15 years, and then of course the whole Before series. I've come around on Ethan Hawke. He is, I think, one of our finest actors, and the two of these guys are great together with a script that doesn't know what to do with either one of them. We don't get near enough character development here. I think that's a theme in all three of these movies, to be completely honest. Well, I think we probably got enough character development in Skies Everywhere. It just didn't blend together with everything else. But this in Causeway for sure. We've got great performers with subpar material. And this one is worse than Causeway because it also takes us in a few different directions that I wasn't really interested in. The Ethan Hawke character is this big Lothario, and he gets in everybody's pants, and it's like, okay, well, it's fine. But I think the meat and potatoes of this movie really is the two of them together and how they are processing not just the grief, but each other's company. So I wanted to like this a lot more than I did. It's not bad, it's a very slight recommend, but your mileage I think is going to vary on this. But it's interesting that all three of these movies do deal with some type of grief and loss and death, just sort of all in different ways. So none of these movies are stellar, none of them are terrible. I'm going to leave Raymond and Ray with a C plus. I could have even went maybe B minus on it, but I think if Causeway is a B, this is probably a C plus. It's unfortunate because I think maybe my favorite no, I guess Brian Tyree Henry is probably the best performance in all the movies, but definitely like Ethan Hawke gives us a great character that we just never quite get to know in the way that we needed to. At least for me. So, all right, that will wrap up 3 more movies for 2022. We've got tons more where that came from. I'm trying to hit at least 200 like I did last year, and we've got about a month and a half before the Oscar show, so I'm going to try to power out a lot of these movies here. And there's a bunch of movies nominated for Oscars that I haven't watched at all yet. We've got The Fabelman still to come, Tar, Women Talking, Triangle of Sadness, which I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to give those, their own sort of standalone reviews, because obviously, they're big Oscar movies, and some of the acting ones too I have yet to see. So but the other movies of the year I think we'll just sort of do in more packages like this. So thanks for watching. We'll see everybody next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.